As a designer, there's nothing more frustrating than having incorrectly quoted your design fee and charged way too little when you're doing too much work. We've all been in this position. I have definitely been in this position many times, but I have learned a few things along the way. So today's video, I'm going to share with you my favorite 4 methods of costing for your design fee for a project. Before we go into costing, there are 3 things that you have to know about every single project and about design fee that I always establish at the start of a project. The first is that every project is time bound. You have to know that for a commercial project, for example, it takes you 1 month of design and 3 months of execution. And for example, for a residential project, maybe 2 or 3 months of design and another 8 to 10 months of execution. So you have to specify the time period for which your design fee is valid first. Number 2, you have to calculate what your minimum fee is. So if you're doing a commercial project or a residential project, what is the base fee that you need to be paid in order to do that? Now you must be wondering, how do I calculate a base fee, or how do I know what my base fee is? It's very easy. You take your office expenses for every month. I'm sure you know what your outgoings are. So say for example, your office expenses are 1 lakh a month. And say for example, you are averaging doing about 3 projects at a time. So each project should potentially earn you 50,000 rupees a month. So if you do 3 projects a month, you earn 1.5 lakh rupees a month, which means that 1 lakh goes towards your office expenses, 50,000 goes towards your salary. So that is what your minimum fee is. So if a project is going to last 10 months and you have to make 50,000 rupees a month, your minimum fee has to be 5 lakhs. That's how you calculate your minimum fee. So you've established timelines, you've established what your minimum fee is going to be for a project. And number 3, you have to know what the approximate cost of the project is, a thumb rule estimate. So for example, if you're doing 1,000 square foot office, maybe office starts at about 3,000 rupees a square foot. So you know that it's going to be about 30 lakhs. Or if you're doing a residence, maybe it's 5,000 rupees a square foot. So you know it's going to be about 50 lakhs. So you have to have a very comfortable hold on your thumb rule estimates. This is something that comes with a bit of experience. What you can also do is take some of your past projects, understand what the total budget is, and then just do a reverse math and figure out, okay, I have used tiles, I have used grow hay fittings, I have used, so and so materials, and with those materials, the costing has come to about this much. So you will then be able to understand an approximate costing for your design style for a commercial and residential space, and you have to be very comfortable with a thumb rule estimate and present it to a client before work starts. So there are 4 basic methods that you can use to calculate your design fee. The first method is per square foot. You charge a client per square foot for your design services. It can be 100, 200, 300, 500. There is no standard rate. It is based on your experience. So I cannot help you with telling you how much it's supposed to be. But this is a very, very helpful method to quote for, because what often happens is that, say for example, if you're doing a bungalow project, the bungalow is 3,000 square foot and you've charged say 300 rupees a square foot, so your design fee is coming to 9 lakhs. Now if the client is asking you, okay, now you design this pathway, you design the exterior, you design the gate, you design the signboard, you design all those things, you can simply tell them that this was not calculated in the interior square footage of the house, and you can add extra per square foot for all of the extra work you're doing. So this becomes a very good way to charge clients that are adding on extra work. The second method is called the lump sum method, and this is a method that I actually use quite commonly in conjunction with another method, and I'll get to that a bit later. So what happens with the lump sum method is, using the thumb rule estimate, you know what your project is approximately going to cost. So for this example, let's say that the project costs you 10 lakhs. The spend for the client is going to be 10 lakhs. As an interior designer, interior designers usually charge between 10 to 15% of the total project value. Let's assume 12.5% for this example. So your fee is going to be 1,25,000 and the client is going to spend 10 lakhs on that renovation. Now there are advantages and disadvantages to this practice, and I'll tell you both. The advantage is that the client does not feel insecure around you, and the client trusts you completely that irrespective of whether the budget increases, your fee is not going to increase. So all the advice that you give them is actually coming from a good place, because what happens is that if you've gone for marble selection and you honestly feel like the marble that's 500 rupees a square feet is looking better than the marble that's 300 rupees a square feet, when you're charging them by lump sum, they know that the cost of the marble is not related to your design fee, so there's a lot more trust. Now the disadvantage is that if the client ends up spending 2 times or 3 times what they had originally said, which often happens in projects, you are still stuck at the same design fee. So that is where the lump sum method becomes a little bit tricky. Now the third method is the percentage method. What you do is very similar to the lump sum method, where you calculate the initial costings and you establish a percentage. Say you've established 12.5% of total spend. But as the spend keeps increasing, your design fee remains 12.5% of that total spend. So this does work well in scenarios where the clients are going to be increasing their budget significantly and they start with a very low budget. And the biggest disadvantage of this is that you as a designer have to constantly track and monitor the budget. Every single thing they bought, every single piece of item that comes in, that goes out, you have to know every knob, every handle, every hinge has to be added into a tally, and it's very, very, very time consuming. And the other disadvantage is that if a client decides to go for something more expensive, even an extra lakh that they spend means that you are earning an extra 10 or 15,000 rupees. So sometimes that starts to create a lot of stress for the client, and I think that it can often lead to clients having a bad relationship with you. So the fourth method is actually one of the best methods. It's the retainer method. Let's assume that you're doing a project for 10 months and let's assume that your design fee is 5 lakhs. You literally just divide one by the other and you get paid 50,000 rupees a month, and that's about it for 10 months, and that's the retainer method. So it actually works very, very, very well, because clients are very respectful of your time, they're respectful of deadlines, they respect what you do, they make decisions quicker because they know you're only on the project for that 10 months. So, they're much better about payments. And after the 10 months has elapsed, if for whatever reason the project is not completed, you get to renegotiate with your client and still continue to be on that retainer or a reduced retainer, because at that point it's obviously just final snag list items that are being worked on. So you're probably wondering, of all of these methods, which is the one that works best? For me, I use the per square foot method, and I also use the lump sum and retainer method. So what I do for the lump sum and retainer method is I take about 70% of my design fee when the design phase is over in a lump sum, and then I move on to the retainer method, where the balance 30% is paid out over the 3 months or 5 months or 8 months or 10 months of the execution phase. And I feel like this has worked really, really well. But guys, beyond everything, you just have to know how much you need to make every single month and just do a backward calculation from that. So going back to the first part of this video, the most important thing is knowing your minimum fee and making sure that that minimum fee gets met. If you are particular about doing that, you will never be in the position where you are continuously doing work and not getting paid fairly for your time. I hope this video was helpful, and thanks guys for watching.